information about products produced by Apple Computer and related accessories. We have several meetings throughout the month. You're here at our monthly main meeting. We meet here in the Forum Room at East High on the second Wednesday of the month from 7 to 9:30 or so. We also have smaller meetings on the Saturday following the main meeting. These Q&A meetings are from 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. at the JCC, and our general Q&A sessions in a very casual atmosphere. And so I don't forget, apparently now, if you're going to the meeting at the JCC, you need photo ID, which you'll probably have, and they will scan that, I guess, and then register you and give you a temporary visitor's ID card. Also Bob Hoey does on Saturdays from 1 o'clock or so at his home, does an iWork study group. And his number is on our main webpage. Please call him in advance if you're thinking of going there. We have a board of directors which meets on the third Wednesday of the month. That's next week from 7:30 until 10 or so. Any member can feel free to attend that meeting, and we welcome comments from our membership. Please see a board member for directions and so forth. If you can't make the meetings but still have a question, feel free to visit our online discussion forums. You'll find a link to those at our website, which is at www.applecider.org. And it also has a Board of Directors tab through which you can email us with ideas for meeting topics, etc. I don't think there are any new people here tonight. Oh, Dion, is this your first time here? Welcome. Yeah. I would ask how you found us, but I can suspect it's Bob. Hey, thanks for coming. Where am I on this sheet of paper here? Okay. Meetup.com allows us to publicize the meeting. Did any of you know? Never mind that. Our dues are $30 per year and payable to our treasurer, Steve Ray. Dues fund our refreshments at the main meeting, the cost of renting this auditorium, hardware costs for producing the monthly meetings, insurance, and our annual picnic. And there's a shopping link on our main page too, through which you can, if you're going to buy something from somebody like Amazon, you go through that. We get a teeny little cut from it at no increased price to you.
And we also have a Take Control link.
Very good. Yes. If you have a laptop with Wi-Fi access, please feel free to bring it to our main meetings. We share East High's bandwidth with the whole room. Sit close for best reception. And having said that, tonight's meeting, after some Apple news and Q&A with Steve Ray, Rick Harrison will give a presentation on Bluetooth peripherals. And then we will have a refreshment break. Immediately following the refreshment break, we've got a few nice items up here that Dennis Worcester will auction off. And then we're fortunate tonight to have Adam Engst from Tidbits and Take Control ebooks here to speak to us. And I'm sure there will be a lot of questions following that. I don't think I'm going to go through much more of this, except that since I know there will be a lot of questions for you, Adam, after you speak or while you're speaking, there's one I want to ask you now. Is the Adam Engst action figure available anywhere? It was a one-off, okay.
Did you 3D print him?
Yeah, really? 2000? Oh, there? Really? Yeah. Okay, Steve, are you ready to go?
All right, yeah, I'm just wondering why my monitor's not showing a live video screen. There we are. So welcome, everyone. Probably the biggest news is the official release of macOS Sierra and iOS 10. This week we will be having Adam do a and I got to switch my camera feed. Well, Adam is going to be talking about OS 10 Sierra. And next month, Todd is going to be talking about iOS 10. In fact, was it last night at App Rochester? I think he's doing his meeting. And so you can see an encore of that presentation if you want. Was it last week? So yeah, so App Rochester is the first Tuesday of the month or the second Wednesday of the month. Sometime those are back to back, but not always. One of the big caveats we've seen in Sierra is Apple moved. I don't know if it's raised or lowered. They raised the minimum requirements for macOS Sierra to about 2010. And so if your computer is older than that, you may not be able to upgrade to Sierra. So here's a list of what models you can upgrade with. In an interesting note, if you haven't upgraded to El Capitan yet, they removed it from the App Store. So Apple is known for removing the old versions from the App Store when the new versions come out. However, there is a tech note with a hidden link. Yeah, I found it. It was weird. And on one of these, how to get OS X Sierra, and I think this is because they've taken off some of the older machines that will still run El Capitan. If you're still running 10.5, where have you been for the last 10 years? If you're still running 10.5, you can buy a 10.6 disk from the online Apple Store. You cannot get it from the retail store, only from the online Apple Store. Once you have 10.6, you can then download 10.11 El Capitan from one of these hidden links, if I can find it here. So if you've already purchased El Capitan, you can download it again. There it is. If you haven't purchased El Capitan, there's a hidden link. So if you go to the App Store and search for it, you won't find it. But if you click on this link, if anyone needs this, I can post it. It will take you to a hidden version of El Capitan that you can then download for free. But you do have to start from 10.6, 10.6.7. So if you aren't running at least 10.6, you have to buy 10.6 first. And if your machine is that old, you probably going to want more memory, and you may need a bigger hard drive. You might want to think of a new computer. And that's usually the reason we hear about models that won't run the older version or the newest version of the OS, is that they're missing some level of cache or some hardware in it, and if they tried running it, it would be too slow. The biggest feature in OS X, well, actually they've renamed it. It's not OS X anymore. It's macOS. To go along with iOS, tvOS, and watchOS is Siri, and so Adam's going to be showing off some of the Siri functions. We've already had people calling it macOS Siri, and that's phonetically very close to Sierra. So okay, yeah. And it coincides with the iOS and the watchOS and the tvOS, so they all kind of work together to do some neat things. I don't think, did we pass another quarter? I think no. The quarters are always interesting. Apple sold more computers than they ever have before. They've made more money than they ever had before. There is a lot of news going on in the Apple financial world. The European Union is fining Apple 14 billion euros for what they claim are not paying enough taxes. And Apple's first response is, we paid everything Ireland told us we owed. And if Ireland did it wrong, go after them, not us. And they are using legal issues to pay as less tax as they can, just like the rest of us. And ironically, that has become a presidential issue too, with Trump not paying any taxes in the last decade or more, because he lost $1 billion 1 year, and he's still deducting that. If they can make enough money to lose $1 billion, that's pretty amazing. So Apple and the EU are fighting back and forth, and apparently some of the backstory of that too is the EU does audits every year, and the last X number of audits were fine, and now suddenly the EU says you owe us more money. Fortunately, Apple has about $250 billion in cash, so it's a pittance, but it's the principle of the thing. One of the problems Apple has run into is that about 3/4 of that money is overseas, because that's where they make their money, and that's basically the contention, is that all of their European earnings go through Ireland, because that's where their corporate offices are in Europe. And so that's all tied up in the Brexit as well. So when the United Kingdom left the European Union, the Republic of Ireland stayed in the European Union, and now there's talk that Wales and Scotland might leave the United Kingdom to join the European Union again. But there's all these tax issues involved with that as well. And so Apple makes most of its money overseas, and if they brought that money back to the US, there'd be a 35% tax. And that's a huge incentive not to bring that money back to the US. And ironically, Apple borrows money from banks to do dividends on their stock buybacks, buy back stock and do cash dividends to stock owners, because that's cheaper than 35% tax bringing their own money back in. So it's kind of interesting to see how the business end of that works. And Tim Cook, as the former chief operating officer, was part of that initially. So he's a numbers guy, and now as the chief operating officer, he almost has to wear two hats, because the governments are asking about previous years. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. The other, some of the rumors go along with the fact that there haven't been any Macs released this year, and many, not Mac Update, Mac Rumors, many Macs haven't been updated in 2, sometimes 3 years. The Mac Rumors website has a buyer's guide, and as soon as I can click on it, one of the things they do is they count how long it's been since the last update, which is a good indication that a machine is coming soon. So say the iMac, it's been 365 days since the last update. There's a good chance there's a new iMac coming, so don't buy one now, because there's probably a new one coming. 512 days for the MacBook Retina, 583 for the Air, 727 for the Mini, 1,000 days for the Mac Pro, 1,500 days for the non-Retina MacBook Pro, which is the model we're using here. In fact, John Gruber wrote a pretty scathing article about Apple selling 4-year-old technology, because this is a 2012 model, still selling it on their product line as an inexpensive MacBook Pro that still has the DVD drive for people that still want an internal DVD drive. But they haven't increased the internals in 4 years. They haven't made any faster clock speeds. They haven't done anything with it. They've dropped the price a couple of times. It's now down to $10.99. But it's really old, and the question now is, are they just going to discontinue it? If you want an optical drive, you get an external one. And the whole, most people don't need an optical drive because everything is downloaded from the internet, is the general argument. The Apple Monitor, the Thunderbolt display, is probably not on here anymore because it just got, there we go. So the Thunderbolt display, 1,800 days since it was updated, and Apple discontinued it instead of updating it. There were a lot of expectations that we're going to come out with a 4K or 5K monitor, basically an iMac 5K without the Mac inside of it, to go along with their high-end Mac Pro. And they discontinued the current model, so there's this sort of vain little hope at the end that they're going to come out with a new monitor. But in an interesting part of the press release where they announced they discontinued this monitor, they actually gave part numbers of competitors, saying here's some fine monitors you might look at instead. And part of the issue is there's only 2 models, the Mac Pro and the Mac Mini, that don't have a monitor in it already. And since most of the computers have an HDMI port on it, you can plug it into your television as a giant monitor, because most people now have that big screen TV in the living room. And with the Apple AirPlay, you don't even need to plug it in. So you can wirelessly send the video from your iPad or your computer up to your big screen TV and not need a second monitor. So that could be an argument why they won't come out with a new monitor. They also just discontinued the Apple TV 3, which I think I saw up here somewhere. The Apple TV 4 that has the App Store on it came out last year. And now that just got an update with tvOS. They discontinued the $69 Apple TV 3 that had the built-in apps that you couldn't expand on. So it does mean the Apple TV now starts at $150, which is a little disappointing. but it's a really cool device for connecting your television to the internet and connecting your computers and iPads to your television, all done wirelessly. Anybody else have any news that they knew of? We're sort of in that quiet news month when the iPhone and announcement is pretty much taken over the news cycles, and everyone's waiting to see what's next. Oh, how many people have gotten an iPhone 7? Did you drill a hole for the headphone jack? Yeah. There was a video going around the internet that went viral that someone was claiming that there still was the big issue with iPhone 7 is there's no headphone jack, but it comes with lightning-based headphones, so you can still use headphones, and it comes with a lightning to headphone adapter. The headphone jack, as we know it, was invented in 1879, was it? I think, for telephone switches. And the mini jack that we use on our computers now was like 1969. So it had 100 years of good run. Yeah. And it's also a gap in the phone. One of the features of iPhone 7 is it's waterproof down to like 50 meters, which is some ridiculous, or is it 30? It's 30 meters, 50 feet. The watch, that's right, the watch. The phone is resistant, water resistant, right? And the headphone jack is basically just a big hole into the phone. So being able to take the headphone jack out, they can make it more water resistant. So there was this video going around the internet where somebody claimed that the headphone jack was still there. They just covered it up with the case. And if you drill a hole just perfect, you can get back to the headphone jack. And a bunch of people in the comments saying, "Oh, I tried it. It's really great. Wow." And then people start writing, "Well, I tried it and broke my screen." What? So we're trying to figure out how many people fell for it and how many people were just playing with the comments. It's like the was it 2 or 3 years ago? Somebody said the phone was lickable. You could lick the screen and activate controls, and there were TV anchor people that did lick their screen. So somebody somewhere would have fallen for this, which is interesting. Alrighty, shall we move into questions? Anyone have a question? Bob, yeah. Ah. So yeah, basically the error, the SSL error connecting to maps. Virtually everything that Apple's doing on all of the devices now tries to make a secure connection so that no one can sniff your connection and play with the results you get. So the error is saying it can't make a secure connection. And instead of falling back to an insecure connection and working anyway, it fails hard and says, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm seeing people run into this issue, but I don't see anyone that has an answer. Have you tried powering off and powering back on? Yep. One of the other problems we ran into with iOS is the morning they released it, there were a lot of people that reported problems, and so by the afternoon, the 10.01 patch had come out, and then a couple of days later, the 10.02 patch has come out. Do you have 10.02 installed? It depends on when you actually did it. So check your settings, general about, and if you don't have the 10.02, install that. One of the things we sort of recommend in general is don't install the first update, the 0.0 update. Now with Sierra 10.12.0, especially on production machines, you know, you earn your living on it, wait for someone else to figure out the first patches. And so with iOS 10, we're at 10.0.2, so there have been 2 patches to fix some problems. So you do have the 10.02 patch. Is the clock right? Because if the clock is off, you could get an SSL. Yeah, power off completely. Wait a minute and power it back on and see if that helps. Yeah, should be a temporary error. The other option could be to download Google Maps or one of the other mapping programs until that one starts working again. One of the issues we've seen in the mapping program is they changed the layout, especially on the iPad. Instead of your directions being in the center of the screen, they're now off to the left, and your map is on the right, which I can sort of see with an iPad being have a bigger screen. But it's different, and we hate different. Right. Charlie has a question. Mm-hmm. It can, yeah, early 08 can't you, so you can't run Sierra, so that's why they stopped telling you about it. It's usually two version numbers, which these days is pretty much 2 years. Third-party programs, generally a lot longer than that. Google and Mozilla, in the last month or so, both recently stopped supporting 10.6, 10.7, and 10.8 for their browser, so you need at least 10.9 to run a modern browser. And if you're running an older browser, both Firefox and Chrome will tell you you're running an old browser and recommend you upgrade. But when you get to the upgrade page, it says you can't upgrade because your operating system is too old. And the browser is generally where people do their most of their work these days, especially online banking and online shopping. And an old browser means you are running old security, which can be a bad problem. There is a compatible browser called 10.4 Fox. That's based on a Mozilla build, and they're trying to keep it up to date. It was designed for people running PowerPC and people still running 10.4 and 10.5. So if you have to keep on a very old operating system, you might want to look at 10.4 Fox. Number 10, number 4, no, word 10, word 4, word Fox, 10.4 Fox, and download that as an updated browser. 10.4 Fox. Somebody's phone is in, not in airplane mode. Is it mine? Where's my phone? That chirping you just heard was the cellular signal interfering with the recording, airplane mode. So turn off all my cell close to the computer. Mm-hmm. Old Macs, old PCs. Company called Neverware, and they have a product called Cloud Ready, which basically turns your Mac into a Chromebook with a modern Chrome web browser. And they keep it up to date as long as they support the older computers. Going back to Charlie's question, Apple made 2 changes. One is in your apps under system preferences under App Store. You've always had the option to check for updates and automatically download updates, and that has been checked on by default. So if you don't want to be told about updates, you can check that off. But in general, updates are good. In Sierra, they added a feature to install Mac upgrades, so that you can automatically install OS upgrades. It will tell you about those as well. And they pulled a Microsoft. If your computer can run Sierra, it will download it for you in the background, because it's 4.5 gigabytes, and then will tell you when it's ready to install, which Microsoft did with Windows 10 and really upset people. But Apple hasn't gone so far as force you to upgrade to Windows 10, which Microsoft did for a while. The cancel button was hidden, the little tiny cancel button, so you couldn't find it. And then for a while, the cancel button didn't cancel the install, it installed Windows 10 anyway. So for the time being, if you're running El Capitan, I think only El Capitan, it will download Sierra automatically in the background for you. That has risen the ire of a lot of people in cities that have data caps, because that 4.5 gigs might be, a good portion of your monthly data cap. People that are on cellular, 4 gigs is usually your entire month worth of data. So you might want to check your system preferences and turn off the notification. Here in Rochester, we don't have to worry about the data caps yet. I saw a Spectrum truck out in the parking lot. We'll find out more as soon as Spectrum's, they've started rebranding the Time Warner stuff, and we'll see what happens when they come out with their new plans. Yeah, they have agreed, no caps for 7 years. If they break that agreement, Phil and his crowd at Stop the Cap will jump on it. In fact, we're planning to have Phil back to speak fairly soon as well. So the big thing now is it takes up 4.5 gigs of disk space on your computer. And if you have a smaller computer with, say, a 128 gig flash drive, that could be a lot of your disk space. So it can be frustrating for people. Yeah. So yeah, if you don't have enough free space, it won't download anyway. Yep. Which is good. At least they looked. And one of the features of Sierra is disk compression. So if you don't use a file for a while, it deletes it, which is really scary too. Yeah. Normally, the OS upgrades download to your applications folder. Does the auto download still do? Yeah, which is silly. Why isn't it in your downloads folder? But then it deletes itself after you install it, which is also silly, unless you move it. Yeah. So if you have 5 computers and want to install it on all 5 computers, the default way they have it set up is you need to download it 5 times on each computer, once on each computer. So it should go into the applications folder, and there'll be an application that says macOS Sierra, install macOS whatever. Yeah, macOS Sierra now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alrighty, any last questions? Ed? Yeah, Sierra 10.12.0 is the first release. Generally speaking, wait until 10.12.1 to let other people figure out and find the problems. Right. And before you upgrade, check all of your apps. And you have to go to the manufacturer of each app to see if it's compatible or not. Roaring Apps, yep, is another good place. We've had several customers that Quicken and QuickBooks are notoriously not compatible. You need 2014 or 2015 in order to be compatible. ScanSnap had a problem. I just saw in Tidbits there was a workaround. Now, yeah. Last year when El Capitan came out, Levelator broke. And all of us doing podcasts love Levelator. And was it Jason posted on Tidbits, was it? Yep, and so we found that fixed. Now, audio units doesn't work, and Audacity died. So I had an incompatible audio unit, so I had to take all my audio units out to get Audacity. So I think, okay, Audacity, they haven't updated it yet. So I downloaded like 5 other audio editing programs. None of them worked because it's an audio unit problem, and they're all using audio units. So there's a third-party website called Roaring Apps. Back when the Mac OSs were based on roaring cats, and you can type in the name of your application, and it will give you it will give you user compatibility reports about the different OSs. So 2011, nobody knows yet. The short answer is it won't work. And the longer answer is upgrade. So that's what we've run into with our customers. One guy first started out by saying, downgrade me back to El Capitan. It's very, very hard to downgrade your OS. You have to erase your hard drive, install the OS, and then restore your backup. Time consuming, and let's hope you have a backup. It turned out to be easier and even a little cheaper to just upgrade QuickBooks. So take a look at your third-party software. Make sure that it's compatible before you upgrade, especially some critical app that you use for making money. I haven't seen anything yet. I just haven't looked yet on Photoshop on CS6. It's still okay. CS6 was the last standalone, what's now being called perpetual license version of the Adobe Creative Suite. After that, they went to their subscription model. And the current version is 2015.5, is compatible, and they've released updates for everything. But that's a monthly subscription or annual subscription. Adobe does have a neat option for Photoshop and Lightroom for $10 a month, which is pretty nice if you're a photographer and want the full power of Photoshop. If you don't need that full power of Photoshop, you can get Photoshop Elements, which is about $100. Or there's a bunch of shareware programs that work really good, Graphic Converter and Acorn and Pixelmator. There's a dozen of them in the 30 to 40 range. Pardon? Inkscape, another one, yeah. And they do most everything average folks need and want with photo editing. So if you want more than the Photos app, but less than $700 Photoshop, there are a lot of options available for you. All right, Bob, did I see you started a question? Can you go to websites, okay, especially secure websites? https://google.com. Now, there might be a problem here. There shouldn't be. If you're on the Wi-Fi versus the cellular, the school's proxy server here at the school, the proxy server sometimes has problems letting secure websites through. We sometimes have problems with YouTube and Google or Facebook. Some of the social media sites the school doesn't allow through, and sort of as a side effect, they'll sometimes not allow any secure service because then they can't look inside of it to see if it's a bad site that students shouldn't be going to. But if you're on cellular, it should work, and even if you're on Wi-Fi, it should work too. Yeah, something in the phone, something in the OS, something on the network you're on. Since it's happening on several networks, it's probably not the network. Are you on cellular or Wi-Fi now? Do you have a Wi-Fi icon in the bar at the very top of the screen on the left next? So you're on Wi-Fi and it doesn't work, so it's not your cellular service. Something in your phone. You could try resetting your network settings And then the side effect of that is you'll have to retype in any network passwords for Wi-Fi and things like that. Yeah. There are always people that run into problems. You can have 1 million people that works fine, and then 5 people that doesn't, and those 5 people are most vocal on the internet. And then one person will post it to 50 different blog sites, and suddenly it's a huge problem, even though it's one guy. But it's on 50 sites, so it must be important. Alrighty, last questions? Alrighty, shall we take the break, or Rick, do you want to do yours? Okay, Rick is going to give us a talk on Bluetooth devices. And switch back to you. And I need to go full screen on my Air server. This is a really cool program. Familiar with Air server? It turns your computer into an AirPlay receiver. So we used to do all this trying to get cables hooked up and running through the projector and getting everyone talking to everybody else. And so now I just turn on the Air server. And now Rick's computer is sending to me, and I'm sending to YouTube stream, and everything's working.
Okay.
So do you need audio, Rick?
I at least need this.
Okay. Do you need audio on your computer?
Probably not.
Okay.
I'll need it for other things.
All right. What is this? Extra cable. Always be wary of extra cable. Yeah. Headphones.
Okay. Is this working? Test, test, test. Can you hear me? Okay. All right, Bluetooth peripherals. First of all, what is Bluetooth? Well, Bluetooth is a wireless technology standard for exchanging data over short distances using short wavelength UHF radio waves in the ISM band from 2.4 to 2.485 gigahertz. It was invented by telecom vendor Ericsson in 1994. It was originally conceived as a wireless alternative to, believe it or not, RS-232 data cables. It can connect to several devices and overcomes the problems of synchronization. It uses a radio technology called frequency hopping spread spectrum. That's a mouthful. Bluetooth divides transmitted data into packets and transmits each packet on one of 79 designated Bluetooth channels. Each channel has a bandwidth of 1 megahertz. It usually performs 1,600 hops per second with adaptive frequency hopping. Yeah, there's Steve hopping, right? Enabled. Oh, sorry about that. Bluetooth Low Energy, which is a different standard, uses 2 megahertz spacing, which accommodates 40 channels. The 3 advertising channels are used for initial discovery of devices and for device pairing. The pseudo-random algorithm for frequency hopping is rather complex, as you can see from this formula.
Nah, that looks easy.
Does anybody out there understand this formula? Could you tell me what
Anybody on high math?
You might need to be an Einstein just to understand the equations. So I'm not going to go into detail on how it works. Just simply accept the fact that it does indeed work. Well, it's becoming a Bluetooth world out there. So what is it used for? Well, for communications between portable and fixed devices such as iPhones, game controllers, stereo devices, you name it.
How many people have a Bluetooth headset they use for their phone? That was all the rage several years ago, to have the big thing hanging out of your ear. And then people, the joke was you'd have 2 of them and turn into a Cyberman.
Bluetooth initial pairing can be annoying sometimes. It might take a couple of tries to get it working. Although the new Apple Bluetooth products like the AirPods pair automatically when you turn them on. No fuss, no muss. Bluetooth has a limited range. Version 3 was only a 33-foot to 100-foot range. Version 4 has a 200-foot range, and Bluetooth version 5 has a range of 800 feet. Bluetooth has built-in latency. Latency means there is a noticeable delay between when a signal is transmitted and when the signal is received. This problem can make it difficult to perform real-time event tracking. For example, you wouldn't want to pair a musical instrument such as an electric piano with a set of stereo Bluetooth headphones, because the signal would arrive too late to make the experience enjoyable. You would play the note on the piano and then hear the note played in the headphones as much as a full second later. However, there are low latency Bluetooth keyboards which make it possible to type on your keyboard and have the text appear relatively quickly on your iPad or computer. The latency in this case is usually of an acceptable level for the user. Pardon me. Frequency hopping adds a level of security. If there are several devices in the same area, all using Bluetooth, unless you monitor the initial pairing of the two trusted devices, it would be very difficult to ferret out which devices are talking to which other devices. A packet of data may be sent and received on one frequency, and then the frequency will hop before sending the next packet of data. The two devices agree upon which frequency to hop to before hopping and sending the next data packet.
This was actually invented by a famous actress in the 30s.
That's right.
Hattie Lamar.
Yep.
Invented spread spectrum frequency hopping radio communication
And she
for the
did
war
that
effort.
To avoid the jamming that was happening. Originally, they were going to use it for torpedoes, to make sure that torpedoes would stay on target and not be jammed on the way off. It's relatively easy to link up 7 or 8 devices to whatever other device you want to connect to. Bluetooth 4.2 LE, or low energy standard, introduced secure connection encryption and uses public and private key pairing with 128-bit encrypted data from a 128-bit key. Data is also authenticated using signed authenticated device signatures. Yes, the security features get to be rather complex, and if you'd like to know more about it, Wikipedia and the internet have some well-done PDF files you can read to your heart's content. The short answer is, it just works, and newer devices are always more secure than older ones.
And interestingly, at the beginning there, it tells you that the Bluetooth was named after a Danish king, Harold Bluetooth, and the picture of the Bluetooth icon is his runes for Bluetooth. So if you know Danish runes, that's the icon.
Mm-hmm. So here are some cool devices that all use Bluetooth to communicate. That's a home audio Bluetooth receiver. Pardon me, I got to put on my glasses here. The print's getting a little fine. I wish these glasses were Bluetooth. All right. This is a Bluetooth transmitter receiver. So it'll do both. There's a switch on it, and you can toggle that back and forth depending upon what you want that in, what mode.
So if you have like an old stereo, you can...
I'm going to demonstrate that.
Okay, good.
This is a Amazing Fortress Black Bluetooth touchscreen smart wristwatch.
For $11?
Yeah, for like about 12 bucks. Now compare that to the price of the Apple Watch. So they might give them a little competition. I don't know. I haven't seen this watch. But I found that interesting. And that's Bluetooth. This is a Star Trek Bluetooth communicator. It's a cell phone handset. I'm sorry, what? yeah, now you know. Yeah. But I always wondered, what does that look like close up? Well, I was able to find out finally. So I think they did a pretty good job with it. It's too bad it's 150 bucks. This is a Tech Acoustics fully waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker. It includes a suction cup for shower use. This is a LED set of glasses that displays messages, animations, and drawing. Basically, the guy was talking about, oh, this is great if you're a poker player. You put this on, and there's an app on your iPhone. You just type in what you want it to say, you know. And he said it was just the life of the party. So if you're into parties and want to impress your friends, this is the cool gadget to get. It is a little pricey. It's about $70. This is rechargeable 3D RF or Bluetooth glasses that you would use with a typical 3D television. This is a wireless Bluetooth gamepad remote controller for 3D VR glasses. Works with Google Cardboard, wireless mouse, music player, ebooks, and your tablets. This is a game controller joystick that you might use with like the Xbox One, I guess, or the 360, and all Bluetooth. This is a Bluetooth 4 wireless RGB remote controller for an RGB LED light strip or bulb. And you could control this with an iOS app and, tell the lights, oh, I want you to turn on, to the music and make beautiful lights go on and off. All over Bluetooth. This is an atmospheric touch Bluetooth speaker LED lamp light. And of course, it's got your regular AM alarm clock and FM radio. This is a Bluetooth headset. Basically, it fits just in your ear so that you can listen to your smartphone, take your phone calls, whatever. This is a Bluetooth oximeter. So it'll check your pulse as well. So you just put your finger on it, and it uses the technology to see what your pulse is and what your amount of oxygen in your blood is. This is a Bluetooth camera, and you can just stick this up on the wall or anywhere you want and monitor on your computer, what's happening in some other room in your house. The next one is the Apple Magic Mouse 2. That's actually a Bluetooth mouse. There's these Sentry B-Trek H10 Bluetooth headphones. I have a pair of them here. I will show that to you later. This is a cassette which transmits your iPhone's Bluetooth output to any stereo, including any old automobile stereos that have a cassette player. And I will show you how that works, because I got that here tonight too. And then this is another Bluetooth receiver and transmitter. It's the 2-in-1 JetTech wireless Bluetooth stereo audio transmitter and receiver, 2-in-1 Bluetooth adapter. And I will show you how that works, because I've got that here tonight too. And there's the competitors. The competitors is kind of nice because it'll pair up with 2 devices, not just one. And if you folks will remember, a few months ago, I did a demo on the NeuroSky brainwave headset. That was also Bluetooth. All right, so let's talk about what goodies I've got here tonight.
He has a bag of goodies.
Now, these are the headphones that are Bluetooth that I was telling you about. And they've got a microphone that's built in. And you can pair these. It also has a voice that tells you what's going on when you're trying to pair it with anything. I think it's just powered off. Notice it's flashing colors. Maybe I can show this better if I go into a different app. Oh. What's the name?
Photo booth?
Photo booth. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, there we go.
I gotta turn mirroring back on.
Oh, I got to turn.
Command F1. Command function F1.
Now it's frozen. Oh, there we go. Okay.
You can go to full screen if you want to make it bigger.
There we go. So that's what it does when it wants to pair. And then you just select it, you find it on your computer, and then you can play music or whatever you want to it and do your phone calls.
Is your computer named E? E's MacBook Pro? Did somebody else try to jump on my AirPlay? Yeah, someone else tried to jump on my AirPlay. E for Ed.
But these are nice headphones. They were $30 on sale. This was the MindWave mobile that detects your brain waves. You remember I showed this a couple months ago and how it works and how you can control things using your brain.
Didn't work very well, did it? No. Worked surprisingly well, considering it's reading your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, it was what, less than $100 for that. All right, this is the cassette that I was telling you about. And if we take this,
Now, some of you may remember the cassette adapter that had the wire coming out of it you plugged into your headphone jack. Yeah. Be good for old cars too that just have a cassette player and no Bluetooth.
all right, so this is that other little device I was telling you about, the transmitter, receiver. On the side here, you see there's a switch. And the switch, you can just move it from one side to the other, depending upon what you want, whether you want to transmit or receive. Right now it's in the receive mode. So I'm going to hook it up to this little speaker that I have. And that will turn it into a Bluetooth speaker. Just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to take my device here. I'm going to pretend that this is not an iPod Touch, but like it's a radio or something, okay? So I'm going to turn Bluetooth off. So Bluetooth is now off on my iPod Touch. All right, and then I've got this other one. I've got two of these now, right? And this one, I'm going to set up to be the transmitter. So I'm going to put that switch in the transmit mode here, and I'm going to plug that into the iPod Touch. And although it's a little silly because the iPod Touch already has Bluetooth, but I've turned it off for the demo. I'm going to now pair these to each other. And I do that just by pressing the buttons. I press these buttons right here and hold them.
So you have an old like portable DVD player, cassette player that has a headphone jack on it. You can use that to feed Bluetooth into it and then listen to it on your Bluetooth speakers.
All right, so the question is, have they both paired or not? And I think they may have, and we'll find out here because I will just turn on the speaker. And I will try to play some music. Yeah, speaker's turned on. Okay, so the pairing didn't work. So this is what I was talking about, how pairing is sometimes a pain. I'm going to try it again. Turn this one off. Turn this one off. Okay, they're both off. Try this again. Pressing, holding the buttons for several seconds. They're both supposed to come on and go into pairing mode. Okay, I'm still not sure that worked. I don't know if I have some other Bluetooth device that's interfering or what. Sometimes that happens. All right, let's try this again. All right, maybe they're talking. Yep. So it works. So I've turned this normal speaker into a Bluetooth speaker. And if this were a radio, I've turned a normal radio into a Bluetooth transmitting radio.
Cool.
That's correct.
There is one caveat on the Mac. There are, is it 6 Bluetooth slots available? So the Bluetooth trackpad takes 2 slots. So the keyboard, mouse, and trackpad, if you have all 3 of them, that's 6 slots. And if you then try to put headphones on, they may not work because there's not enough slots. They may have fixed that in later models, but I remember a tech note a few years ago where, you know, if you can't pair your Bluetooth headset, you may have run out of Bluetooth slots. Not many people have that many Bluetooth devices and connect them at the same time, but looks like Rick could. At a time. Yeah, 6 at a time. Yep. Yeah.
All right, so any questions? Charlie.
It's probably RF. How much did it cost? That's RF. Bluetooth devices are usually in the $60 range or more. Yeah. Yep. And yep, bad guys at a distance can sniff what you're typing. 100 feet. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, any other questions? Okay, let's take a break.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome. So you want to get back here around what?
20 out. What time is it?
15 minutes
About
from
15,
now.
yeah, 10, 15 minutes. We have refreshments set up in the back, thanks to Shirley. Donations are welcome. If anyone wants to join or renew, I can take memberships down front here. Did you bring books to sell, Adam? Oh, electronic. That's true. That's true. They're electronic books. So Adam will sign your body in some position if you want him to. All righty.
Yes. Because what happened was when you were having trouble connecting there, I turned the Bluetooth off. I have no idea if it was a signal from over there that was.
It could have been. That's right. Yep. So you should really do your pairing at home in a safe environment, and then once it's paired, then you can go out to the airport and not worry about it.
With the bedroom door closed.
In a Faraday cage surrounded by aluminum foil.
That's a good point. We mentioned that there's a possibility when he was having trouble pairing those things.
Thank you. Okay.
There was interference that it might have been trying to pair with my iPad. There.
Yep. Yeah, and that moment of insecurity when one device is saying, here I am, and your other device is saying, okay, I got you, someone else can say, okay, I got you.
Yes, it's called a man-in-the-middle attack.
Yeah. Can you turn off AirPlay?
Assuming I can find it again. Huh. I'm not even seeing it. I am not seeing AirPlay. Tell you what, I'll just turn off my computer.
Yep. Live bacon. Bacon is always the answer. £1. You can start for £1. I won't mess up this sketch. £30 gets you 1.
Oh, so you're using air service, we don't have a Belmo?
Right.
Grab air server then.
Now we can hang the camera on your screen. May need to angle it a little bit better. Yeah. Oh, well, so the city school district does not allow smart URL shorteners. Yeah. So it should be called CIDER book?
Yeah, we get air server
Yeah.
first.
No, you just use AirPlay. You don't need Air Server. Yeah. Yep. Moo. You don't have any compromising tabs open there, do you?
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm not really sure.
Who is that political guy that got caught? He posted something about, you know, donate to my campaign, and he had like 3 porn tube tabs open.
We'll just move that one down. I look with no in the background. That's not a problem. I'm really fond of this extension, Unsplash Instant. Then you get a new tab, it gives you a beautiful new picture.
Mm-hmm. Neat. We just watched Star Trek V the other day. We're going through all the Star Trek movies to catch my son up. And 5 was the search for God. And there's a scene where he's climbing El Capitan, and Spock, you know, saves him after he falls. They didn't use El Capitan. They made a set for him to climb, of course. But stupidly, they did it in the parking lot at Yosemite Valley. So if you look behind Captain Kirk climbing El Capitan, you can see El Capitan and Half Dome. It's that perfect, the Ansel Adams shot that Apple used as the screen desktop picture of El Capitan and Half Dome right behind Captain Kirk as he's climbing El Capitan. Yeah. So why did they bother going to Yosemite to film that if they weren't going to use the mountain? They didn't want to use the mountain in case he fell, but they could have filmed that at Paramount.
Yeah, so these live features are kind of neat. I and they came today. So, but basically, this is places.
Yeah.
And
you stick them up. Yeah.
you can stick them up anywhere. I mean, I can't remember your pocket. And then if you got the app, then it'll ping when you've been grade point. And so anyone snag the app. Dennis has it, Rick has it, and then it just goes through. Basically, it pops up like you can hear it, and then it shows you the web page that I programmed in, which is I can take the book catalog or my homepage, depending on which you need to get the range at first.
iOS app or Mac app?
iOS.
Probably iOS. Yeah, that's why I can't find it.
Hey, man.
Hey, Shlomo.
You can set that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Mac. What's the weather like today? Close enough? I'll show you. Yeah. I mean, in some sense, Siri is actually a little hard to demo because it's what you want to do, and what I find about Siri is the sense that because it's a conversation, you have to know you're going to get the right answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to just ask random things that you're going to get rejected on this time. And so I don't do like 4 things with Siri because I know they work, and I don't try other ones because I had tried them once and they failed.
Until you're reading somebody's article about how to,
Right, precisely. And so you actually have to sit down and think, what am I going to do that's going to work? And
there's a tell me what I can say.
yeah. Hey, Mac. Hey, Mac. What can I say? So it will give you suggestions. But yeah, you've got to really plan it. What I think I'm going to do once I don't have Sierra running on my main Mac, so I need to test some production stuff. Which is one of those things where it's like you can't just look up everything you need. Unfortunately, I actually need to install it. And I even tried to boot this, target this one and boot the main Mac. Trying, installing, just Acrobat 11.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to reinstall because it's a new boot drive. Fine, I will install Sierra in some way that I can revert out and test my automation and network flows and all that. Office 2008. Oh.
There's no registration file that you can copy to another machine. Yeah. And yeah, so you run your updates and it downloads 8 gigabytes. And have you found that the Microsoft Updater fails frequently and you have to start over? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I found a website that has the I've run the same thing with iOS updates. I find iTunes fails all the time. It's probably just our crappy Frontier internet. For iOS, I found ipsw.me. For Office, I did find one, and I can never find it again. That has all the standalone installers, and Safari lets you resume a corrupted download. // These new fancy top-level domains. Oh, this is what I have found. Now, okay, this is a volume license. Where do you put in your volume license number? Does it ask for it during the install? Because usually that volume license you don't find anywhere. Oh, I see. It's sending you to the Microsoft website. Yeah. But all of these are specific download links with your account, yeah. But yeah, we find that all the time at our office. The Microsoft Updater will fail and have to start over again. The iTunes OS downloads will fail and you have to start all the way over again. So being able to download it in Safari and resume when it fails is handy. (2011), yeah. Mm-hmm. I've had the auto update fail to update itself so many times. Yeah, and then it won't up. Yeah. Was it Steve Gibson when he posted his link to the Windows update? So you can update the Windows update. So if you install a fresh Windows 7 now, the Windows update in it is old and will not work. So it will say it's down because you have to download 105 updates. And then after that you have to download 140 more. But it doesn't work because Microsoft changed the update program, and so you have to download the Windows update so you can update Windows Update first. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've had a couple of customers get hit by Safari 10's anti-flash stance. So the button said download Flash or use HTML5. So the customer downloaded Flash and installed it. Went back to the website. It said download Flash or use HTML5. Yeah, well, that's what I told him. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you have the regional sites different or whatever. I'm sure it's not you. I mean, nobody would look at your name on the program and say, I'm not going to listen to him again. Right? Yeah. Can I quickly ask anyone who has not signed in when it came tonight to sign in on the sheet here? All right. Are we doing raffle? Are we doing raffle or auction? Okay.
Needless to say, I didn't ask for other stuff that was being said. That company, maybe not so much. Actually, we didn't look at the logo on it. Precisely. That strikes me as the sort of thing you would think they'd have something. It is something that I never pressed in. Yeah. The screaming, part of the screaming. Yeah. Looks like the alumni magazine has an app. Eastman Notes. Okay. Several apps. Yeah. The screen resolution that I got put down to is a little hard. Well, it's more than yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that might be it. But yeah, so you'd have to talk to the alumni people, yes, and say, dude, you know, you got this app. It's a free app. It'd be much easier sell than yeah. So the guy who owns the recording studio console, yeah, cool. He knows what he's talking about. In other words. Okay, so what do they? Here's what I haven't seen actually. How much they're planning to actually charge? 29 pounds. Hey Mac, what is 29 pounds in dollars? 35. Yeah, so it looks like. He didn't say how long they last. I imagine. But it looks, I mean, right. It looks like it's the whole point is supposed to be super cheap and easy. And I suspect that you know they really want to be getting into. They haven't said much about how they're getting into it. But yeah. Oh, is it? I probably
Just curious as to why the speaker is switched on.
I do, Steve. I definitely do. These are actually. Yeah. All that. It's just like,
Yes. That's the way photo booth works. So you see what the other person sees. You can reverse it when you take a picture, but you're seeing what
You're getting the subjects.
right. So so if you raise your left hand, the image on screen would raise the hand on the right. Well, and Google does the same thing in the Google Hangout. Everything is reversed because I'm seeing what the other person. So the person's on the other side of the screen looking at it this way, and so they're seeing the other half of this. So the first time that came up backwards, I thought, what the hell? Oh yeah, that's the way they do it. All right, we should probably get started again.
Yeah, it's a little tinkering. Right. All right, let me know when we're hot, and I'll.
Alrighty, get that recording again.
Okay, so should I stay sitting down? So I'm staying in the camera?
Or,
Temporarily.
yeah, if you do want to stand up, take your microphone with you. Or, yeah.
All right, welcome back after the break. Tonight we have someone who has donated a very special item for you to bid on at a low, low price. You might be asking, what is this item? I'm here to tell you it is indeed something that you didn't know you needed until tonight. Many times we deal with Macs and Macs only have a single monitor, and as Adam Engst can tell you, single monitor Macs are okay. But what you need is a second monitor, because
You do need this.
you don't know that you need this yet, but you do. And the good part is every recent Mac is capable of driving a second monitor. And with a small investment in a adapter, you can be one of these people. I myself have been running multiple monitors for well over 2 decades now, and it is the type of thing that increases your productivity immediately. It allows you to have your email up in one monitor and the word processing document you're working on in a different one, or to be able to look up a web page about a place you want to go and to work out the spreadsheet about how you're going to pay for it.
All the early TV commercials that showed multiple monitors, I always said that, or you have the stock ticker playing in the second monitor. We know as soon as the camera stopped running, they brought up the soap opera or the game show.
So tonight, and tonight only, you can get a second monitor that is a very convenient portable size for a very low price. Now, tonight's monitor is right here behind me. I'll get it now. It's a 17-inch monitor. It comes in a box.
With a handle.
And the box has a handle, so it's easy to transport back to your home. It wants to come and live with you. So keep that in mind and be ready to bid. The maximum resolution on this monitor is a very standard 1280 by 1024. It does run at a very standard 75 megahertz, or I'm sorry, 75 hertz refresh rate. This is all very normal, but this is the type of thing that you can really make use of right away. It has all of the standard, probably VGA connections that you need. And again, with a very inexpensive adapter, you can get started and watch your productivity soar.
Does that come with the speakers too? Okay.
So tonight you can get the monitor. And where do you think we should start the bidding, Steve?
Well, I'm checking HP's website to see what the price was. And it doesn't say, of course.
Possible. I'd like to start the bidding at, well, you have to be present to win. So I'd like to start the bidding at $15.
eBay has it for 70 bucks. And another one for 25, and another one for 50.
Do we have anybody at 15 who's interested? 15? Hearing any interest at 15? We've been told that it does work properly. It is fully functional. It is ready to be used right away. You could use it tonight as soon as you get home. Is anybody interested at 15? All right, we're not hearing any interest at 15. I'll go just a bit lower. I'll go down to 10, but I really can't go much lower than that. Okay, Bob's in for 10. Anybody want to advance on 10? Going once? Twice? Sold to 10 for $10 to Bob. That's a deal. That's a deal. Thank you for helping support the club, Bob. All right, and without further ado, I believe we're going to go into our main presenter for the evening. This is Adam Engst. He is a longtime friend of the Apple platform and a longtime publisher. I believe he has his degree in hypertext publishing, but way before it was cool.
I was going to say, that's back from 1989 when we knew what hypertext was.
Yes, and he graciously comes and joins us every fall, and we're very happy to have him here again. So without further ado, Adam Engst.
All right. Thanks so much, folks. So I am curious, how many people have upgraded to Sierra? Anyone? Yay! 1 early adopter, 2 early adopters. There we go. 3 early adopters. One of the things I have to say is that it's Sierra is always it's always the case, as Steve was saying before, that it's better to wait a little bit. Apple does do a public beta, so you can get your hands on it early, but the public betas you really don't want to mess with on your main machine. So even that 0.0 release, just wait for a little bit. There's no harm in doing it. If you do want to update, it's better if you have a second Mac. So for instance, this is my MacBook Air, and my traveling machine, my presentation machine, and my sacrificial guinea pig machine. So that's the kind of machine that it's good to start with. And then once you're ready, you can actually go to the main release on the main machine. The question is, of course, always, why would you want to? Because you've got presumably a perfectly functional Mac that until before Sierra came out was running El Capitan or Yosemite or Mavericks or going on further back. One of the things that Steve was talking about a little bit, I do think is worth reiterating, is that you do want to upgrade at some point. That, as you saw, if you're running 10.5 Leopard, it starts to get really hard to upgrade. Snow Leopard, still pretty hard. It's possible, but you're starting to get into more trouble with figuring out what software you need, things like that. So as much as I understand the pain of upgrading because change is hard, I really do recommend that you always go to the latest operating system at some point before it goes away, because it does get stable. I mean, basically every version of macOS 10 that we've seen, might have started out a little flaky. There might have been a big hullabaloo in the community, but by the time it was replaced, it had been stable for 6 months, and people were not complaining about things. So it's good to keep up, because that way you can even the pain out a little bit. A little bit of pain every year as opposed to a whole lot of pain when you want to do it 5 years later. So of course the other option is always to just buy a new machine, at which point you'll get the new operating system and everything will hopefully just be happy, but you'll have to pay Apple $1,000.
That's sort of one of the answers to the question. I have old software.
Yeah.
Keep the old computer running the old OS for that old software.
Yeah, and actually, to be fair, it gets a little bit trickier, again, how far you go back, but there's virtualization software too, like Parallels Desktop. VMware Fusion seems to be a little bit shaky at the moment in terms of whether they're, what kind of support it's getting. But with Parallels Desktop, you can actually, on your Mac, running Sierra, say, run El Capitan. Or in fact, you can do the reverse. You can have El Capitan running as your main machine, and then do the virtualization kind of in that little box. Try Sierra. So it's a way to try things out. So virtualization software can be your friend there too. But in any event, let's talk about why you might want to upgrade. As Stephen noted, Sierra Siri, that's the really big feature. If you've gotten used to using Siri on your phone or on your iPad, it's finally come to the Mac. And it's a little embarrassing that it took this long, frankly, because Siri, one of the things that you may not realize about Siri is it has to talk to Apple's servers. And so one of the issues with Siri is you have to have an internet connection. But Macs almost always have internet connections, so that seemingly would have been easier to do. And of course, you've always got a microphone, et cetera, et cetera. Why it took Apple so long to give us Siri in the Mac, we don't know. But it's here now. The way you invoke Siri on the Mac is you can click in the upper right-hand corner on the dock here where you've got a Siri app icon. And you just click it, and Siri pops up. Now, you'll notice Siri is going to start listening to everything I say, which could be a little odd. Siri does not understand the words, and Siri pops up. You can also invoke Siri in the menu bar here. So if we close the Siri window, pop up, click here. Hi, Siri. And we'll get a response. If you want to keep asking Siri things, you can just click the microphone again. It is very hard to demo Siri because it's always listening. But you can ask Siri quite a number of things, such as, show me PDF files created this year. And so there is a set of PDF files that I had created this year. Have the appropriate creation date. You can also even do things like, I have to think for just a second. Show me photos from California. So Siri will actually launch the Photos app and then it will do a search within the Photos app on photos from California. I'm actually not sure what's gonna happen here, but there they are. This is the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is why there's all jellyfish. I really like jellyfish. Gracie? I did not see the
From Star Trek
whales.
4.
I was there with my nephews, so we were seeing what the nephews wanted to see. Pokemon Go largely, but so Siri, you can do quite a lot of things. You know, a lot of the same kinds of things you can do on the phone. So you can say, "What's the weather like today, Siri?" And you'll get, you know, a weather forecast. You can also look stuff up on the internet. What are the baseball standings? When you stutter, you get strange things. There we go. Got the MLB standings. So that's very similar to Siri on the iPhone, plus the ability to talk about Mac apps and Mac files. So for instance, I can also say, open iTunes. And it'll launch iTunes. So you can actually get pretty close to controlling a whole bunch of things on your Mac directly from Siri. Now, the main thing that you can't do out of the box, which you might have gotten used to, is Hey Siri. So for those who have iPhone 6s or 7, you can see, well, I'm going to show this, but you can say, "Hey Siri, what's the weather like today?" So that just works on the iPhone 6s and 7 without it being plugged in. On some of the earlier ones, you need to have it plugged in. But the whole idea of Hey Siri is you just talk, right? You don't have to be pushing buttons or holding things down or anything like that. So the question is, how do we make the Mac do that? There's a trick. It's a slightly complicated trick, and we're actually going to be doing, I'll be going to do an excerpt from our Sierra Take Control Crash Course book, where we've explained how to do this. I'm going to do an excerpt from that in tidbits fairly shortly. But so here's the trick. The first thing we do is we come in to the keyboard preferences, we go to dictation, we turn on dictation, and we say use enhanced dictation. So you may not have realized this, but this has gone back for a while. The Mac has actually been able to type out what you say via dictation. And the enhanced dictation means that it can do it locally. It doesn't need to go up to the internet to figure out what you're saying. And it has to download a big dictionary to do that. It's like a couple of gigabytes. So that's why you have to click that button specifically. So once you've turned on enhanced dictation, then we come to accessibility. And Siri has listened to me saying everything here. So we're going to say, put Siri to sleep in the back of my pocket. Okay. You come to accessibility, and here's the trick. Down in accessibility, there is this interacting section where there's dictation. And you can actually set up a dictation keyword phrase, because the whole idea of accessibility is for people who have trouble using the mouse and keyboard, right? So of course you would want to be someone who has trouble with their hands, let them talk to the computer. So if you enable a dictation keyword phrase, and you can set this to be anything you want. So if you don't want to say, "Hey Siri," you want to say, "Yo Mac," or "Yo Mama," or whatever you want to have it be, "Yo Shlomo," you can. So I've set my dictation keyword phrase to "Hey." I'm going to set it to play a sound when command is recognized, so we get a beep. Then come to dictation commands. I've already made this, but basically you'd click plus. And when I say the word Mac, so that I've got mine set to say, "Hey Mac," when using any application, open the Siri app. The Siri app is just an app in your applications folder like anything else. So once you've configured this, again, we'll have instructions on the web for how to do it. Click done, click done. So now I can say, "Hey Mac, hey Mac, come on. Hey Mac, what's the weather like today?" So it's what I've found from this is you have to really get the sort of the enunciation right. You know, it is expecting those kind of quick sounds. I haven't played with a lot of different words to see if it recognizes some words better than others, but I do recommend that you do not use the words "Hey" and "Siri," because if you do that, any iOS devices around you will also try responding, and then they just start talking to each other, and all hell breaks loose.
And if you ever listen to any podcasts where they're talking about it, that's one of the reasons you hear some of the hosts will talk about, hey, name of choice, or, you know, ahoy telephone is Jason's, and hey Shlomo is Andy's.
Yeah. So in any event, so this is it's a nice way to do it. And if you've seen like ads, like there was a Super Bowl ad for the Amazon Echo, which they use Alexa, so you can say, you know, oh, Alexa, what's the weather like today, or something, and Amazon's little Echo speaker will hear you and tell it. This is actually sort of the same thing. You can actually have a Mac. If you had a Mac, an old Mac running Sierra, open in your living room, it could be listening and doing these sort of things for you.
Microsoft had a Xbox commercial last year where they were showing off all the voice commands on the Xbox, and at the end of the commercial they said Xbox off. Anyone watching that commercial on an Xbox had their Xbox turn off.
So in any event, the trick with Siri, we were talking about this a little bit during the break, is that you have to figure out what Siri is going to be useful for you to do. So I use Siri on my iPhone and my Apple Watch, and I use it for a fairly small number of things. So for instance, I use Siri to text my son to come down to dinner. So I will say, you know, and I'm actually not going to say this, but I will say, you know, hey Siri, you know, text Tristan, it's time for dinner. And as I hold my watch so it doesn't hear me. And that works. It works every time. So I've gotten really accustomed to doing that. Similarly, I use Siri to make reminders that saying, hey, remind me to do this tomorrow at 9 a.m. works almost every time. So I've gotten the kind of the feedback that it's a good thing to try. Now, there's a lot of other things that I've tried once and they didn't work. And I won't go back to it. And so what I've found is that if you think you want to do something, you think you found something that would be really helpful to do hands-free, try it. And then you know, like, figure out what you need to do to make Siri recognize you, and then whether it's a Mac or an iPhone or anything, and then force yourself to do it enough so that you and Siri kind of come to that meeting of the minds of like how you should pronounce things and how loudly you have to speak, how firmly you need to speak. And also, Siri understands a lot of different phrasings, drives me nuts. So I say, remind me to email so-and-so tomorrow at 9 a.m. That seems to me to be a nice thing. My wife says, make a reminder tomorrow at 9 a.m. to email so-and-so. And in doing it in that order, it drives me nuts. I can't think that way. You know, so I'm always thinking like I'm talking to someone, you know, giving a specific and kind of precise command. So it's worth thinking about like the way you want to phrase things and training yourself to do that phrasing. So the remind me phrasing works really well for me now. And if I had to think about that at all, I would stumble, and then you get really stupid stuff. My other tip is don't stress too much about names. Siri will get names completely wrong. It's mostly useful like in reminders and stuff, as long as you can remember who it is roughly. Even if the name is completely and utterly misheard. And there's ways, we can get into this another time, but there's ways to train Siri, particularly in iOS, to get names better. Use the nickname field in contact cards. So, any event, so the big thing, as I said, Siri, but there's a lot more in Sierra, and I want to show you some of the other stuff. So, the next big thing that Apple talked a lot about when they introduced Sierra is desktop and documents folder syncing. So the idea is you have a Mac and you have an iOS device, you have maybe two Macs, you might have an iPad as well as an iPhone, and the stuff that's on your desktop, you might want to get to from other machines. Same with your documents. You want to have this single unified documents folder that you can get to from any one of your Macs or any one of your iOS devices at any time. This is kind of a cool idea. And I mean, to be fair, it's a little bit more like Chrome OS. You know, what you get on Google's Chrome boxes, where everything is in Google Docs and you can get to it from any of your machines. But Apple's moving in that direction, so they gave us desktop and documents folder syncing. Now this is something that you turn on in iCloud because it requires iCloud. And if you go to iCloud Drive, in System Preferences, iCloud Drive, and you click Options, you'll notice a new item here called Desktop and Documents folders at the top, and you can see I have it checked. I am syncing these right now.
Doesn't it ask you if you want to turn that on during the install?
I think it does at this point. The problem with installs is that unless you force yourself to do them repeatedly, and even if you do them repeatedly, sometimes it remembers what you've done before, so you're never quite sure what other people are going to see. I actually don't. If you're doing this to begin with during install, do not turn it on. You say which you might do, because,
which it does ask you, yeah.
Yeah, which it's going to ask you to do. So if it asks you during install, do not turn this on. So here's the problem with desktop and documents folder syncing. Your desktop and documents, probably not your desktop, but your documents folder probably has a lot of data in it. It might have, well, let's see. If I go into my Atom documents, oh, I can't find it because it's in iCloud. I need to go here. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff there. So, okay, I have 11.73 gigabytes in documents. iCloud by default, you get 5 gigabytes free. So if you're not paying for more iCloud storage space, or you don't want to pay for more iCloud storage space, that's the first reason not to turn on desktop and documents folder syncing. That it will cost you, I think, a minimum of 99 cents a month.
$1 a month for 50 gigs, which isn't bad, but it's $1 a month.
Right.
And the annoying thing is it's $1 a month. You can't pay annually. It's 99 cents a month plus tax.
My wife, who does the accounting, is tremendously irritated by this because it's a whole transaction every month that she has to deal with just because we need to have, you know, iCloud photo library and then now this desktop and documents folder syncing turned on. So so in any event, so that's the main thing, you know, main reason not to turn it on right away, is that you may be in a situation where you just can't because your iCloud account can't take all the data. Second problem, and then thing not really a problem, but you need to be aware of because I just ran into it, is that historically your desktop and documents folders have been in your home folder. That's where they've been since 2001 when macOS 10 first arrived. And Apple has been beating this into our heads that that's where those folders live ever since. However, if you turn on desktop and documents folder syncing in iCloud, they move to iCloud. So notice I've got the iCloud item in my Finder sidebar here. If I click that, there's my desktop and documents folders now. And it just moves them there. They are gone from the home folder. And that may throw you. It's thrown me a couple of times. I mean, just now, I was not even thinking that they had moved. So Apple could have done something like putting in a link there. Mm-hmm. They didn't for whatever reason.
So Time Machine still has to know where they are, though.
Yeah,
you would expect.
I don't know how they deal with all of that stuff behind the scenes. They actually, if you use the command line, you can still go, you know, ~/desktop to get to them. So they're still sort of there from the command line side. It's all very funky behind the scenes. Yeah, Rick. I wouldn't do that. I think that would be a very, very bad idea. Seriously, there's enough going on behind the scenes with this stuff that I would not mess with it.
And then you might be tempted to back up your documents folder by dragging the alias.
Yeah. If Apple didn't do it, I'm hoping there's a reason why they didn't do it, and there's a for that. But yeah, I think trying to add another level of linking into that would potentially one of those recipes for disaster. So. So the third reason to be a little careful about desktop and documents folder syncing comes, actually shouldn't say that. Let's say you did turn it on, and then you decide, I don't like this. You can turn it off. There's no problem with that. You just come in here and uncheck this checkbox. And I'm not going to do that here because we don't have a ton of bandwidth. and it will take a while to move stuff around potentially. But here's the problem. What will happen is that Sierra will create new desktop and documents folders in your home folder, empty ones. It does not move everything back to your local disk. It simply stops syncing it from iCloud. So what that means is you turn this off, and then you go look in your desktop and documents folders expecting to have all your stuff there, and there's nothing.
Who thought that was a good idea?
I have no idea. This is just craziness. So all your data is still safe, but it's in iCloud. So what you would need to do is you'd have these desktop and documents folders still in iCloud, and you need to open up another window. Oops. You'd need to open up another window and go to your home folder and copy the contents of these folders back to the new ones. And you can do that, and it'll move them fast. It doesn't have to download them new or anything like that. They're sort of still squirreled away somewhere on your Mac. But that's the thing that can be very scary and confusing, because you think, I've turned this off. Everything should just be put back where it was, and that's not going to happen. So beware of that. Okay. The next big thing. Apple made much of a marketing feature called optimized storage. And this sounds like a great idea, right? So we have these MacBook Airs and the new MacBook, the 12-inch MacBook, that have 128 gigabytes, 256 gigabyte flash drives. They don't have a lot of space on them, and it goes fast. So why not offload some of that stuff to iCloud? This is actually not a terrible idea. However, Apple managed to implement this in possibly one of the weirdest interfaces I've ever seen. So the way you kind of think about getting into optimized storage. First of all, optimized storage is not one thing. It's about 4 or 5 different things. And what they did is they said, okay, when you open about this Mac, there's a storage tab. And this has been there, that was there in El Capitan too. And it's going to calculate your your storage.
What the hell is other?
Yeah, right. This has always been a little bit inscrutable. But it will say, oh, look, you've got documents, you've got system, you've got apps, there's photos, there's iCloud Drive, there's mail, iOS files, other. I've got 2 gig of other. I have no idea what other is. And purgeable. Purgeable is a new thing, and this is part of optimized storage. But notice the other thing that's new here is this manage button. So we click manage. We want to manage our storage. We're going to optimize it, right? It launches System Information. System Information is this app that's, again, been around for a long time. And what System Information normally shows you is the system report. You might have seen this at some point. It's like all the really tweaky, techie details of, oh, I don't have any fiber channel devices, but here's my graphics displays and all the super, super technical stuff. Most people never go into system information because there's no need to. However, optimized storage is in system information as the storage management window, which is new. And that's what this is right here. So storage management, you can see it has this top thing on the sidebar called recommendations. And this is sort of wizardy stuff. And by wizardy stuff or assistant stuff, I mean it's going to do something for you. It's not actually, these aren't the option. This isn't where you control optimized storage. This is where you turn optimized storage on. So you can see we've got 4 categories here. And we'll talk about the 4th one first, actually, because it's the easiest to understand. It says reduce clutter. Sort through documents and other content stored on this Mac and delete what is no longer needed. This is actually really useful. And if you notice, that's what all this stuff over here on the side is. If we click review files, all it does is move us down to documents on all these things. So what all of these other things are here, this is a list of your applications. This is a list of your documents. This is something that's telling you that you've got GarageBand instruments taking up 1.84 gigabytes, and you have to manage those in GarageBand. iCloud Drive, iOS files. Look, I have a backup from my friend Sarah's iPad from, well, it's got 2016 as an access date, but it's not. It was made like 5 years ago. I could probably delete that. So the idea of all of this stuff is to help you identify large files you don't need. And it's actually kind of cool. So when you go Documents, large files just shows you your largest files sorted by size. So look, there's a movie that's 476 megabytes. And you could click the X button here to send it right to the trash. Or you can look at your downloads, and again, sorted by size. Look, there's another movie I've got that's 1.232 gigabytes. That's taking up a lot of space. And then finally, there's a file browser that lets you see everything, but again, sorts, it's column view, but it sorts everything by size. So I can say, oh, wow, look at that. Dropbox is taking up 65 gigabytes. You know, that's where most of my space is going. And if I go in here, oh, it's that camera uploads. That's taking 11.8 gigabytes. And there's the, the 550 meg movie that's at the top of that. So it's a really nice way to just sort through your stuff and get rid of the really unnecessary large things.
Omnidisk Sweeper got Sherlocked.
There are a lot of apps, Omnidisk Sweeper, What Size, Grand Perspective, that will do something like this. This is not a new technology, but it's the first time it's been built into the OS. And so yes, this is Apple crunching on some third-party developers. That said, I will say that this is not the best thing ever. I'm particularly fond of Grand Perspective because it does a graphical view of stuff, so you can really just kind of like, what the heck is that large colored blob? And you click on it and you're like, oh my goodness, I've got 11 gigabytes of something. So, but in any event, this is still a nice little feature. However, let's go back to the recommendations. I'm going to move up from the bottom because they're easier to understand that way. Empty trash automatically. This is Apple catching up with Microsoft Windows 98, which has been able to empty the trash since 1998.
Well, in OS 1.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, so basically, when you turn this on, you click the turn on button, it says, are you sure you want to empty the trash automatically? Items left in your trash for more than 30 days will be automatically erased. You can change this setting later and find your preferences. Turn it on. Boom. I get a completed button. If you want to turn it off, you can't do that here. This is just a turn on feature. So if you want to turn it off, you go to Finder, Preferences, and you see this remove items from the trash after 30 days setting. And that's where you turn it off if you decide you don't want this. I think this is actually a fine feature for the most part. It's a horrible UI. Yeah, there's no question. And I don't think they're going to tell you anything much, in terms of like when things go away or anything. I think your stuff's just going to disappear. But the fact is, if you're one of those people who never empties your trash, this will help keep your disk space a little bit more manageable. I'm one of those people. I empty my trash once every 6 months if I remember. Or when my disk fills up. So,
and then you second guess yourself about why did I delete that?
So on the other hand, if you're the sort of person who puts something in the trash and then immediately goes and chooses find or empty trash, this isn't going to help you because you never have anything in your trash for more than 30 days. Any event, you can choose or not, but here's where you turn it off if you don't like it. And see, when I turn this off, I come back here, close this window, and open it again. Look! I've got a turn on button again. So this is basically just this kind of, there's a wire between this button and this button, which it's not going to do quite live, but if I open it, again, there, it's done again. Just crazy. So any event. Okay, so at least that one's pretty easy to understand, right? It's one thing. Now we move up to optimized storage. Now, this is the optimized storage part of optimized with a D storage. I don't know why Apple gave it this horrible name. This does two things. When you click the optimize button, it gives you two checkboxes. One for automatically removing watched iTunes movies and TV shows, and another for downloading only recent attachments in Mail or not downloading attachments at all. I have no idea what these two things seemingly have in common, at least in comparison with another one we'll get to next. But again, these are just controlling other features. So if we go into iTunes, and we open iTunes Preferences, Advanced, you will notice this checkbox here, automatically delete watched movies and TV shows. And so when we cancel, come back here, and if we click optimize, that'll check. With Mail, it's a
Well,
slightly
say, well,
different one.
theoretically, you can download those movies and TV shows again
Right.
because they're in your iTunes account, but you don't necessarily need them taking up space.
Right. And so, yeah, and so this is, I mean, basically, this is the situation with both of these features, is just that Apple can always go back to iCloud to pull this stuff back. If you need it, and it will appear to be present, it will just need to be downloaded again. So, but the Mail one I want to show you is in Mail, Preferences, Accounts. For each of your accounts, notice this Download Attachments pop-up menu. It's currently set to all for all 3 of my accounts. Okay, so now let's go back to Storage Management and say Optimize. Boom, and it's done it. It did one of, oh, there we go. It takes a little bit. This is the other thing that's a little maddening about this, is it's not instantaneous sometimes. It will, and then it will change. So it says completed, and so we come back to Mail, and we check. Now it says recent for download attachments. So it changes that setting for all your accounts. Similarly, we come into iTunes, and my session is expired. I don't care. And there's that automatically delete watch movies and TV shows. So again, these are not, you know, particularly on a MacBook or MacBook Air where you don't have a lot of space, fairly reasonable settings. Just a weird interface. Okay, so stop all those, and let's come back.
Only 11,000 unread messages?
I don't use Apple Mail. I use Gmail. So, okay, here's our last one. And this is the weirdest. So for some reason, this says store in iCloud. And this is files and photos in iCloud and keeping only recently opened files and optimized photos on this Mac. So when we click store in iCloud, we get 2 more checkboxes. Why they had 2 sets of these instead of putting all 4 in one, I don't know, but it's the same. One of them is optimized files and desktop and documents, and the other is optimized photos and videos and photos. The second one is not new. If you use iCloud Photo Library, you've been able to do this since the beginning of iCloud Photo Library, where you say, look, my main photo library is on my iMac at home, and I want everything downloaded there. That's great. But on this MacBook Air, I don't have room for a 100 gigabyte photo library. So optimize it. Only bring down the thumbnails. And that's what this checkbox does. The other one, we'll do this. We'll click this now. We click Store on iCloud. Yeah, that completed button. That one, oops, when we come in here, goes with this iCloud Drive Optimized Mac Storage. Here's the problem. Let's say you've done this. You've got all your documents, all your desktop files, they're in iCloud, and you've said Optimized Mac Storage. If this is your main Mac and you do this, and you fill up your drive, Sierra will delete old files from your drive. Actually delete them. They're gone. They're still in iCloud. And they will download again if you need them. But here's the problem, and what we don't know yet because there's just too many variables to test at the moment, is what happens if you start a time machine backup or any other backup after those files have been deleted? Does that mean the only extant file, version of that file, is in iCloud? That you do not have a local file, nor do you have a backup? And I personally am not willing to ever have a situation where I don't have a backup of my file.
It should be in the previous backup before.
But not if you started a new backup.
Yeah.
Because they say say your time machine drive dies.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. You know, something drives, you put a new drive in, you do a new backup. Oh, well, you lost your old one. It's not a big deal because the files are still there for the most part. You know, you might lose some old versions, but you won't lose the files. But in this case, you might not actually have all your files that you believe are on your drive in your backup because they only exist in iCloud. Now, don't get me wrong, iCloud generally works pretty well. I think iCloud is a fine solution for syncing. I do not trust it with the only copy of my data. I wouldn't trust it with the only copy of my photos, and I wouldn't trust it with the only copy of my data and other files. So when we go into Photos, it's the same thing where you've got a checkbox here in the preferences. You're just using iCloud Photo Library and saying Optimize Mac Storage. That's a good thing for this Mac because it could never store my entire photo library. It's way too big. But on my iMac, if I had optimized, then iCloud would have the only master copy of all my photos. And I'm sorry, I don't trust iCloud with the only master copy of all my photos. I trust things I can put my hands on and copy around and have backups off-site and things like that. So that's my big concern with optimized storage, and that's why I'm recommending caution, particularly with this one, this checkbox of optimized Mac storage. I recommend keeping that off for now. No, Apple has said nothing about it, and it's one of those things where, as I said, setting up the tests to find out what actually happens are quite difficult because you actually have to fill up disks. And so like I need to download the Sierra installer and duplicate it 3 and 4 and 5 times to fill up my disk and then start seeing what gets deleted. Because we don't even, Apple hasn't even said how they're going to choose what to delete. So is it going to be, they sort of said it will be old large files, but that doesn't mean those aren't important old large files. Right, precisely. And oh, and actually one other thing with desktop, I forgot to mention this, with desktop and documents folder syncing, if you use virtualization like VMware Fusion or Parallels Desktop, those create virtual machines, which are basically disks. So they're huge, right? Because it's, they're 10 gigabytes, because that's how big a disk you want to give Parallels to work in, say. You do not want to be putting a 10 gigabyte file in your documents folder and having that synced up to iCloud.
That can even fill up your Time Machine backup drive.
Yeah.
We've had several of our customers, their 1 gigabyte backup drive is full in a week.
Yep.
Because every hour it's backing up their 50 gigabyte virtual machine.
Absolutely. So that's another thing that you want to be super careful with. So just move, if you have one of those, make sure it's not in the documents folder, and again, and privacy, moved out of your
Exclude from Time Machine.
Your Time Machine backups.
But back it up some way.
Yeah. And then finally, the last thing to actually comment on is Dropbox has said, we really, really do not recommend that you have your Dropbox folder in your documents folder or in your desktop folder such that it's double syncing, because Dropbox will sync everything up to Dropbox and iCloud will sync everything up to iCloud. And if they're both doing it, basically, I believe the technical term is higgledy-piggledy. Stuff goes weird if once you have 2 syncing solutions trying to touch the same files. Now, normally Dropbox should not be in your desktop or documents folders. Dropbox should be just in your home folder. So it shouldn't do that unless you've moved the Dropbox folder at some point, which you can do, or they used to allow you to do it. They don't allow you to do it in Sierra because it's such a problem. So this is some of the reason why we're just saying, right now we're recommending just be cautious. And oh, one more thing. So you have 2 Macs, right? Turn on desktop and documents folder syncing. What happens? Do they merge? We thought so originally, but it turns out we hit an edge case in our testing. They do not merge. The first one creates a desktop folder and a documents folder in iCloud. The second one, and any subsequent Mac, creates a desktop. So for instance, this Mac is called Zephyr. It'll create a desktop-Zephyr folder inside the main desktop folder. And then it'll say a documents-Zephyr folder and inside the main documents folder. So if you want a merged copy of your desktop and documents folders between your 2 Macs, you actually have to then take the contents of those computer-specific folders and move them in. This actually makes sense in some ways because you could end up with conflicts if files were the same in both places, or just who knows what would happen. The reason why we didn't run into this in our initial testing was that we weren't trusting this with real data, so we set up new accounts. And so a new account didn't have anything in its desktop and documents folders. And so we seemingly got one merged one. When we merged the second account in, it was a clean account. And I'm like, oh. Later we realized that we'd not done a good test situation. But so again, be cautious with this. It's not a terrible feature, but make sure you know what you're doing before you go into it, and keep that optimized storage thing off. That's the one that I don't trust.
And remember that syncing is not backup.
Yeah.
We've had callers on the radio show where they turned on syncing and then deleted a file to make sure it synced, and it did. It deleted it on the other computer because that's how you sync, is you make them the same.
So, and just so you can see, part of the reason why this is so confusing is, remember when we clicked optimize before, we had 2 checkboxes? Now we don't have a checkbox at all. Well, that's because I have the photos one turned on. So now it's not even going to tell me about photos in this little wizardy part. So it can be, as I said, that's what's confusing about this whole interface that Apple's come up with, is it's like it's offering you suggestions and then changing things when you take some of the suggestions but not others, so it looks different when you come in at different times. No, this is, well, sorry, the only thing is iCloud Photo Library optimizing, which is good. And I said, I think that's great for a secondary Mac. But again, and even with the optimizing for your secondary Mac, optimizing the Mac files isn't a terrible idea, as long as it absolutely doesn't happen on where your backups take place. Because that's where you're going to lose, potentially create a situation where you do not have a local backup. So, okay. That's the stuff that's the hard stuff in Sierra. I had to explain all that. Sorry if it sounded really confusing. It is really confusing. You know, this took 3 or 4 of us when we were writing the Sierra Take Control Crash course. This took 3 or 4 of us days to figure out what it was doing and track down all of this stuff. Actually, it's not don't put it on the cloud, it's make sure you control it locally too. The cloud should be an addition. The cloud should be helping you in some way. So here's the cool part about desktop and documents folder syncing is I can go to my iPhone and I can get any file that is in the iCloud Drive app. I can pull up any file in my desktop or documents folders from my Mac. Maybe I can't open it because I don't have the app and the app may not even exist, but it's a file there in iCloud Drive that I could, you know, probably share or send via email. So someone says, hey, I need that file from such and such. Oh, okay, let me send it to you from my iPhone. I can do that kind of stuff. So there are uses for it, but I am not a fan, particularly with iCloud, frankly, of giving it total control, giving it the only copy. Frankly, I don't think iCloud has earned that trust yet. I mean, everyone who's had the duplicated contacts or the calendar events that all go hooey, you know, you can't trust a system that does that. And I don't think Apple's got it rock solid yet. They need more time to prove that level of trust to me before I will trust them with that kind of thing.
And I think the installers all default to on. Yeah. When the Photos app first came out, iCloud Photo Library defaulted to on. And then suddenly your iCloud is full and you have to buy more. And File Vault is now defaulting to on. If you have a spinning drive, you may not want to turn that on because it can get really slow. And now I'm pretty sure when I remember installing Sierra on this machine, it offered to turn on optimization and desktop syncing.
Yeah.
And I especially said no because I'm one of the people that keep everything on my desktop. So I got like 100 gigs on the desktop because I know where it is.
Yeah, we have a Take Control of Upgrading to Sierra book, and you know, that walks you through all this stuff. But I think the real basic advice is pay close attention while installing.
Uncheck a lot of boxes.
It's really easy to just go yes, 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 and you don't really quite realize what you've agreed to. And you know, I see what Apple's trying to do, and in Apple's world, all this stuff works, right? Apple does not admit that things don't work sometimes. We live in the real world where we know stuff doesn't work sometimes.
And they're probably testing it, unlike you did, on an empty machine, and it works fine.
Right. You test on a perfectly reasonable machine.
But my computer that I've been upgrading for 15 years, and this is the 7th model that I migrated all the way along.
Yeah, no, you have no idea. So any event, so yeah, that's the sort of thing you gotta be careful for. Okay, let's talk about a couple more features in Sierra. There's one. Oh, sorry, please. Yeah. Most of them, and yeah. No, it should remember basically all your settings.
There will be check boxes for the new features in Sierra, like the optimization and drive syncing.
Right, but everything, you know, all sort of old stuff like your. Yeah, it should remember, you know, what Wi-Fi networks you've used and which one's your default and all that kind of stuff. So all that should be good. I mean, it's been kind of interesting. In fact, we've been doing this Take Control of Upgrading book since Panther. So we've been doing it every year. And this year we actually had a serious discussion of, you know, are we even going to do this book? Because frankly, the upgrading is pretty easy. You know, you don't really need a book to walk you through this. The problem is that if you haven't done it, if you've been doing it regularly, you've seen this before. The problem is if you haven't done it regularly, it's super scary. You know, if you haven't upgraded a Mac in 3 or 4 years, you haven't seen this, and it would be really nice to have someone telling you what's going to happen. So, okay, so let's talk about app tabs. So let's switch to show you Pages because I just happen to have it. I have an article open here that we were working on. And you will notice over in the right-hand corner here, we've got a plus button. This you might be used to seeing from Safari. See, there's that plus button there, and if we click it in Safari, we get a new tab. So I could open a new tab, going to Apple or something like that, and you're used to this in a web browser. However, what's new in Sierra is that almost all apps get tabs now. So as long as it's technically what's called a Cocoa app. So you won't get it in something like old like BBEdit or Word, Microsoft apps. But in pretty much anything new, you'll just get this plus button, and you can create a new document in a new tab, and you'll get our history of lighthouses. Check that out. And if you look in the window menu, you'll get show previous tab, show next tab, move tab to new window, all those sort of standard tab-like things from Safari. And they're just going to be in any app that's document related that you use. If you use apps that are not really document related, they might not do tabs exactly. Or they might be a little weird just because it's meant to work with documents. So this allows you to, instead of having, you can pull it out and make it a window, but instead of having a window for everything, you can make them into tabs. Now, the one thing you can do also is drag things. Let's see. Oh, I haven't saved it yet, so I don't have it. Save that. Once you can drag your little proxy icon here, and come on. There's a way to drag into tabs to combine them. I'm not seeing what that's doing at the moment. Oh wait, use this. There we go. You have to drag the tab itself. Sorry. So if you have multiple things open in different windows, you can break them out into windows by dragging the tab, or you can drag the tab into the tab bar, another window to combine it. So it's a way to just neaten things up and so use apps like you're used to. Okay. So those are really the big features. Now we're getting to the really little stuff. Let's move these. So this is perhaps my favorite little feature in Sierra. We're in the Finder here. We've got a couple of windows. And you'll notice, and this works in any app and even windows between apps. Say you want to make a nice, neat desktop. You're trying to kind of align these things. Well, in Sierra, if you move and you slow down just as you get there, you'll notice that it stops and kind of sticks. See how it's kind of sticking there and kind of bouncing? It's this new Align Windows feature that just does the right thing. So you can do it aligned to any side, and you can keep pushing past so it doesn't align, but it's just a nice way to make things line up perfectly. And if you really don't like it when you're dragging, you can hold down the Option key and it won't do it. So someone had to say, oh, I don't like that, and they added the Option key behavior too. But it's a nice little feature. And as I said, you can just push past it normally if you don't want to fuss with the Option key. But this will work, as I said, between any two windows, whether or not they're in the same app even. Okay. In keyboard, keyboard shortcuts, there no text, sorry. There are two new text shortcuts: capitalize words automatically and add period with double space. These are sort of brought over from iOS. Remember in iOS, if you're typing, if you can just tap the space bar twice and it will put in a period and a space instead. That's now come to the Mac. So if you like that, you can leave this on in System Preferences Keyboard Text, and similarly with capitalizing words automatically at the beginning of a sentence. So if you type a period, it knows the next word should automatically be capitalized, unless it's iOS, of course, which then shouldn't be capitalized. So that's kind of neat. Okay, next one, folders on top. If we look in my Downloads folder, there's now a Finder setting. See here? Keep folders on top when sorting by name in Finder Preferences, and that does exactly what it says. So you can see in my Downloads folder here, all my folders have just kind of bubbled up to the top. Now, personally, I'm not quite sure why anyone would want to do this.
It's a Windows feature that I absolutely hate.
Yeah, it's a Windows feature, and maybe it's just some Windows users just have to have it. I don't really understand the appeal of it personally, but if you want it, you got it, and if not, just turn it off, because why shouldn't the folders sort in there where their names go? I mean, that's how I would look for them personally. So, any event, it's a feature now. Next one I'm not going to show you because it's not that exciting, but it's actually one of the cooler things. Because it just works. If you copy something, you have your iPhone, say, and you want to move text over to it from the Mac. Let's see if we can do this. I'll grab BB Edit. Copy some text. Copy. Now, because this Sierra-based Mac and this iOS 10-based iPhone are using the same iCloud account, it is automatically transferring the contents of the clipboard. It's this universal clipboard. So if I bring up a note, and I did my up there, and I do paste, Come on. Oh, that's not doing it quickly enough. It takes a while sometimes, but in theory, universal clipboard fails the demo test, I tell you. In theory, universal clipboard should move whatever is in the clipboard on one device to all of the others. Seamlessly in the background. There is no interface to this. You can't turn it on, you can't turn it off. It just works. Or in this case, it doesn't work. So we'll try this later. We'll see if it ever catches up. It isn't. Yep, it's in the clipboard here. So, that can be quite handy, particularly if you have a fair amount of text on that you need to type on a real keyboard and then move over to an iPad or an iPhone. So give it a try. Hopefully it'll work better for you than it worked for my demo.
I found it works fairly well with URLs.
Yes, another good thing that's really hard to move over. It's one thing. It's like apple.com. Anyone can type that. But if it's Stony Brook dot such and such and such and such for admissions, I cannot type this. It's a great thing to move stuff over. Again, not going to show this because it's not that interesting, frankly, and a little hard to show anywhere because it's not supported much anywhere. You can now use Apple Pay in Safari. And that's a kind of a theoretical thing because websites that do e-commerce have to start accepting it. And the only place that we know if it accepts it so far is the Apple Store. So to get screenshots, we actually bought a Thunderbolt cable from Apple so we could get a screenshot of this working. So we couldn't find anywhere else that was actually using it.
There's a guy that accidentally bought an Xbox, showing off the Amazon "Show me an Xbox." Yeah, I think you just bought an Xbox. Oh crap!
Apple Pay does require that you have Apple Pay set up in your iPhone because that's actually the Touch ID is how they are the secure enclave in an iPhone is where all that stuff is really stored for Apple Pay. So it has to be communicating from your iPhone to your Mac, making it a little bit of a funky connection to do that. So it's not. So you will have to have the iPhone around to be able to use Apple Pay. The other thing the iPhone does for you in Sierra, and I haven't set this up because this is my MacBook, not my main machine, is auto unlock. So if we put this machine, I don't want to put it to sleep because I'll probably mess other things up. But if we put it to sleep and wake it up, it would ask me for my password, right? Well, if you set up your iPhone correctly, and it's a little bit of a fussy thing to do, not terribly hard, but a little fussy, when you walk up to your Mac, your Mac sees that your iPhone is within proximity and says, "Oh, I'll just auto unlock for you," which is kind of cool. And then it's the same thing the Apple Watch. So you don't have to be doing the password all the time. It's one of the actually not the iPhone, it's the Apple Watch only, right?
I knew it was Apple Watch. I wasn't sure if it was iPhone.
I think I misspoke. I think it's only Apple Watch. Sorry, it's one of the reasons to get the Apple Watch because you have the Apple Watch on your wrist all the time, and that's what's in proximity. Sorry, not the iPhone.
But you have to have it on the iPhone.
Yeah,
the watch has to be set up to the phone to work to the computer.
Apple would like you to buy multiple devices and have them on your body at all times. Are we clear on that? And if it's not on your body, it should be right in front of your body. So in any event, the next little cool feature is picture-in-picture. So you don't actually have to go and change it immediately after people leave to watch your video. You can just watch your video in the corner of the screen and pretend to get work done all day long while you're really watching video. I'm not quite sure I see the appeal personally, but apparently it's a big deal.
And so my thought was you could do that anyway. You just make that window smaller and move it down in the corner.
Yeah. So there's a new. This is taken from iOS 10. There's a new little filters in Mail. I was actually going to look for this. I don't use Mail, so I hadn't seen this. Here it is. So you see this tiny little button here in my inbox. You click it, you can filter by these individual little, it's not really a filter. It's more of a restrict the view to just these messages. So if you think of mail filters as something that like moves, like rules, that moves something from one mailbox into another, that's not this. This is just show me only the messages that are unread or flagged or addressed to me or CC'd to me, or only messages with attachments. So I can just say, show me only the messages with attachments that are unread. And Mail will then go off into a spin loop while it figures that out.
You have 11,000 unread messages.
Yeah, well, you know, my archive has 667,932. I don't see the problem here. Yes, yeah, you can see it's got checkboxes for 2 of them. So, and then the last 2 things, Contacts gets a new feature, which is really minor, which is it lets you add contact like accounts for things like Skype. So right in the contact card, you can have a Skype account. Okay, and apps can actually hook in, the Skype app can hook into that so that when you click on it, it'll open Skype. Really pretty minor. And then there's actually a fair number of changes to messages, which are largely useless. They're largely
stickers.
They're stickers. No, the stickers are only on here. You can't put stickers on the Mac, but it's all this stuff to make messages compete well with all of these third-party apps that are really popular in China and stuff. You like with messages. I really did kill Mail. Look at that. With messages, you can do big emojis, for instance. Like if you just type a smiley and no text, the emoji will be big. Okay, wow, cool. And so there's a lot of that kind of tweaky graphical stuff that's being added to messages. Frankly, I think you'll not see it. I think people you're
we're too old.
You're all too old. You won't see it. Your friends won't use it, and you can just ignore it. So,
but your grandkids might send you something.
Yeah, whatever. Type a smiley face back. You're all set. But it's all really kind of minor stuff in messages. Most of the stuff that's happening in messages is really happening on the iPhone, where you can also ignore it, luckily, because who wants to add stickers to every message? Words work just fine.
It's a new revenue stream.
It's mind-boggling, some of the things. It's like I mean I'm not offended. I understand that Apple needs to appeal to the 14-year-old crowd, but nonetheless it does feel a little gratuitous at times. So those are 10 really small features in Sierra. So there's a lot of little things that you might run into that you might like. Those text shortcuts, for instance, or the aligning windows. And then there's all the stuff like messages and contacts, which you'll probably never notice until someone sends you a big emoji. And you're like, wow, that emoji is really big. So those are the big ones. If you have any other questions, I know we're running low on time, but I'm happy to answer any at all. Yeah. I think the answer is not at all. As far as, I mean, Siri. I think there was a headline. Actually, I think Walt Mossberg actually just teed off on Siri on The Verge, saying Siri is basically not that good. And it's true. Siri is not that good right now. And that was kind of what I was getting at before in terms of you have to figure out what you can tell Siri. Think of Siri as a really, really dumb robot.
Weather, sports scores, movie listings.
Very specific stuff, and you've got to say it just right. And they build in clever stuff. So for instance, hey Mac, tell me a joke. I can't. I always forget the punchline. So, you know, they build in clever little cute stuff like that.
It doesn't speak like it does on the iDevices.
I'm wondering if there's something that's...
It's your preference for it. I haven't
yeah,
found
I
it.
wonder if I've got sound. I had sound on earlier. No sound on. Oh, it's because I'm connected to you.
Which is
The
connected.
AirPlay.
And this is the audio.
I was wondering why I wasn't getting a beep. So yeah, so it should be talking. It should be telling us this stuff. Yes and no. I mean, what do you consider AI? I mean, so
It attaches to Google.
right. So I mean, you know, now it's working.
I'm not sure I understand.
I always with Siri, I always go for Australian voices because the voices are not quite right. And so if it speaks in what sounds like normal American English, it sounds not quite right. Whereas if it's speaking it with a foreign accent, you don't notice as much. So I always get synthesized voices in other versions of English. But yeah, so I mean, what's new in macOS 10?
Apple.com should be able to answer that question and more.
So there are things it can, you know, it can pawn stuff off on search engines. But you can, I mean, you could do more interesting things like search Google for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Searching Google for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, it says. I said it Australian. So I see Siri as more of a shortcut. So don't think it, you know, I just reread The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for some reason, and you know, there's a great phrase, your plastic pal who's fun to be with.
That's my desktop picture.
Yeah. So you know, do not assume that Siri is your plastic pal who's fun to be with. Assume that Siri is a shortcut. You know, it's like a keyboard shortcut where you can hit Command Shift S to do something.
There we are.
And then Marvin the Paranoid Android. So that's, I mean, I sort of hate to break it to you. That said, the technology is improving rapidly. Google's doing this with the Google Assistant that's built into the Google Home speaker they just announced. So it works like Amazon's Echo. Alexa, my suspicion is Alexa will always be dumber because Amazon doesn't have nearly as much data as Google does. Apple probably has a fair amount of data from Siri searches, but Google has everything. I mean, so my money is on Google for doing the best job at this.
We've wondered why they haven't added this to Apple TV, and the usual answer is because you got an iPhone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Apple TV, the Siri. I mean, and that's the other thing was actually Siri is fairly specific. You can ask the Siri on the Apple TV things that Siri on the Mac or iPhone can't answer, which is weird. You know, why would that be? Why wouldn't it? You know, why wouldn't it try? You know, if I said, show me movies with James Bond.
Let me check on that. Here are the most recent 24
actually
movies
did
starring
better than I
James
expected.
Bond.
Although I think that's really wrong.
It's probably James or Bond,
Yeah,
not
right.
James and Bond.
Let's try. Show me James Bond movies.
I found quite a number of James Bond movies.
Silkwood. Yeah, that was one of his best. That was a Roger Moore favorite. So no. So Rick's giving me the sign. Any last questions before we need to wrap it up? Okay. Well, thank you all. I hope this has revealed a little bit more about what's going on underneath the hood with Siri anyway, in terms of the new features.
And don't forget, let me scroll down. Saturday at 1 o'clock, Bob Hoey is doing his iWork study group. And then at 3 o'clock at the JCC, we are doing our Q&A meeting. And before that, from 12 to 2 on Jazz 90.1 is the Soundbites radio show. So you can get more questions answered from there as well. We will see you all next month where we are doing iOS 10 and holiday gifts. So thanks everyone for coming. Oh, we forgot to do the raffle. Next month? All right. Okay. And the weather worked out much better for you this year.
that's true. So